let's go ahead and talk about possible ways of understanding the Trinity. For starters, it's probably best for us to think of our God as being beyond personality as we typically understand it. So as we try and figure out his three in oneness, it might be best for us to start by saying that he's not going to fit into any of our existing categories. God is beyond our paradigms. Yet when we talk about a being beyond personality, many people think that what we're saying is that God is impersonal, that he has no personality, that he's just like a law or a power or something. But that's totally different than going beyond personality. Instead, we might say that God is supra-personal or super-personal. Now, C.S. Lewis describes it in these terms of dimensionality. A line, for example, is one-dimensional. Now, you might say that the line represents a lower order of being because it's inanimate. No, but Lewis talks about a box being two-dimensional. Now, this box may represent humanity, while a cube might represent divinity. It's incomprehensible for the line to fully wrap its mind around the box. And similarly, a box cannot fully wrap its mind around a cube, because with each level of dimensionality, we're adding another level of comprehension. So with each dimension of personality, from animal to human to deity, we're adding another dimension to personhood. Now, this isn't a great metaphor, but it does give us at least some understanding. It gives us a toehold for understanding that God's nature isn't going to be something we're able to figure out totally and easily. Now, the most basic understanding of God, metaphorically, is as an equilateral triangle. It's actually a correct but boring way to get it. Now, the sides are all the same. No matter which way you flip the triangle, it's still a triangle. Slightly less crude, according to St. Patrick, is the idea of comparing God to a shamrock leaf. Now, each of the three portions of the leaf is an essential part of the leaf, but the leaf itself is greater than all of its parts. Again, it's not a perfect metaphor, but it gets us close. Consider also the metaphor of a book. It's existing in three different and distinct ways at once. It exists in the mind of the author, on the shelf, in the library, and in the imagination of the reader. A better illustration than all of these might be to think of the universe itself. We're all made up of space and time and matter. Space with its length and breadth and height, time with its future, past, and present, and matter consists of energy, motion, and phenomena. Now, of course, we have a couple of problems when we try and talk about the Trinity using all these metaphors. Well, for one, we just don't have good words for talking about multidimensionality. I mean, not unless you're an astrophysicist or something. And we also have a limited intellect. I have a limited intellect about multiple dimensionality. And so we're going to be hamstrung by what our finite minds are capable of grasping about an infinite God, regardless of our relative brilliance among other people that we know, or even other people alive today. So all of this involves a certain amount of awe and wonder. And it makes sense that if we're going to reserve our awe or wonder about anything, it ought to be reserved for God, that being above whom there is none other. God is supreme. So we might end up by talking about whether or not this is even a relevant topic, given that we're so poorly equipped to understand it. But doctrine doesn't just it seems so abstract to so many people, and so it doesn't even seem to matter. But C.S. Lewis, again, to quote the famous man one more time, in his book Mere Christianity, points out brilliantly that an ordinary, simple Christian kneels down to say his prayers. And he's trying to get in touch with God. But if he's a Christian, he also knows that God is what's prompting him to pray. It's God inside of him, so to speak. And he also knows that all of his real knowledge of God comes from Christ, the man who was God, and that Christ is, in a sense, beside him, standing beside him, helping him to pray, praying for him, watching him while he's praying. So do you see how this works, how normal and real lifey this is? Every time we pray, God is the one to whom we are praying. He's the goal we're trying to reach. God is also the one inside of us, pushing to pray. He's the source of our motivation and our power. Yet God is also the bridge along which we are traveling from our lives toward the life he's designed for us. He's the one pushing us along toward that goal. So God is himself the bridge to God. That's why the Trinity matters. That's why all this stuff matters, is because it affects ordinary, everyday life in the simplest ways.